Masculinity is not a costume. It is not handed down through genetics, status, or loud declarations. It is not something you inherit. It is something you forge. And the forge is the nervous system. Before the muscles, voice before the mindset, before the mission, there is the wiring. Masculinity is shaped by how your nervous system responds to stress, not by appearance or emotion. The body is the battlefield, but the nervous system is the command center. In moments of pressure, in the instant when fear whispers and doubt tightens its grip, it's not your muscles or your voice that define your strength. It's the decision made deep within your biology. The sympathetic nervous system surges like a wave, primed to protect, to fight, to survive. But it's not raw aggression that makes a man. It's what he does in that moment of chemical fire. Will he lash out, or will he channel it into clarity, control, and forward motion? Because masculinity is not chaos, it's power restrained. It's not dominance through force, but command through presence. When the nervous system is weak, the man is reactive. He crumbles under pressure, caves to impulse, seeks validation instead of responsibility. But when the nervous system is forged in discomfort, when it learns to breathe through fire, to remain composed in the face of uncertainty, that's when masculinity takes form. This is not an idea, it is biology. It is the architecture of neurons that fire under pressure and don't break. It is cortisol tamed, adrenaline mastered. It is stillness in storms. That is the birth of authority, not just in the world, but over the self. You cannot pray for masculinity and hope it arrives like a gift. You must earn it in the furnace of hardship. God didn't make warriors to live soft. He placed in man the seed of strength, but it must be activated, not with noise, but with discipline. The world has sold a lie that masculinity is either toxic or cosmetic, but neither image nor rage can stabilize a man. Only the nervous system can, that deep, unseen engine that governs every reaction, every posture, every tone of voice, every step forward into danger or discomfort or responsibility. A man who has trained his nervous system becomes a temple of composure. His presence alone shifts the energy of a room, not because of what he says, but because of what he withholds. And that training doesn't come from ease. It comes from sacrifice, from saying no to what is easy and yes to what is righteous. It comes from fasting, from the need to be understood, from the thirst for attention, from the addictions that numb the soul and weaken the spine. The man who disciplines his body disciplines his brain. The man who tames his breath tames his mind. And the man who owns his nervous system becomes unshakable, not because the world is calm, but because he has become the calm in the storm. The ability to stay calm under pressure is a biological skill, trained through repeated exposure to challenge. Calm is not the absence of fear. It is the mastery of it. The body doesn't default to peace. It defaults to survival. In times of stress, the brain fires warning signals. Cortisol floods the bloodstream, the heart races, and breath shortens. This is ancient wiring, meant to preserve life. But the difference between a reactive man and a composed one lies in training that conditions the nervous system not to be ruled by the surge, but to ride it with power. The warrior does not panic when the battle begins. He has felt the shaking ground, heard the roar of chaos, and still walks forward, breath by breath, because his calm is not pretend, it is forged. This is not theory or poetry. It is hardwired biology. The parasympathetic nervous system, the counterbalance to the storm, is what allows a man to slow his breath, anchor his focus, and act with precision. It must be cultivated through discomfort, through cold, through fatigue, through failure. You cannot simulate calm in silence and expect to carry it into war. You must meet the storm daily. You must fast from comfort. You must chase the breaking point not to collapse, but to command. This is the holy path of building the temple inside the temple where chaos kneels and clarity rises. Every breath you control under pressure rewrites the map of your nervous system. Every second you choose stillness instead of reaction is a seed planted in the garden of resilience. You do not become calm by wishing it. You become calm by confronting the storm and staying. You become calm by walking into rooms that terrify you and not flinching. You become calm when you silence the inner child that screams for escape and listen instead to the man within who says, stay, breathe, lead. This is the calm of the shepherd in the valley of shadow. This is the calm of the prophet in the wilderness. This is the calm of the disciplined man who has seen death in the eyes of his own weakness, and still walked forward with his spine unbent. It is not arrogance, it is not bravado, it is reverence, reverence for order, for control, for the sacred strength that comes from being a master of self before a master of the world. The man who has not tamed his nervous system is not ready for leadership. He is a servant to impulse. But the man who trains under stress, breathes through fire, prays through pressure, and moves with intention, he carries calm as a weapon, not as a luxury. Hormones like testosterone influence behavior, but behavior also influences hormone production through feedback loops. This is the divine echo written into biology. What you do changes who you become. Testosterone has long been framed as the hormone of aggression, of power, of dominance. But its deeper truth is found not just in the blood, but in the choices a man makes in the face of resistance. The man who stands tall, who trains, who speaks with conviction, who claims responsibility, he sends a signal to his biology that he is ready for more. And the body listens, the nervous system listens, hormonal cascades respond. This is not passive chemistry. This is activated masculinity. Testosterone does not merely flow from genetics, it is pulled forth by behavior aligned with discipline, strength, and mission. There is a reason why the body rewards discomfort. When you lift heavy weight, face challenge, hold posture under stress, or walk into uncertainty without flinching, the body does not interpret that as suffering. It interprets it as leadership. As readiness, it responds with hormonal fire, with testosterone, with dopamine, with drive, not as a gift, but as a reflection of earned status at the level of your nervous system. This is the feedback loop that builds true power, not the man who waits to feel strong before acting, but the man who acts strong even when fear is present. He trains, he suffers, he remains still, and the body learns to rise with him. Posture matters, eye contact matters. Breath control matters, not just for presence, but for physiology. When a man carries himself with authority, even before the results come, his body begins to rewire. Hormones shift, neurons fire, systems align. This is the architecture of masculinity, not born, not gifted, but constructed, rep by rep, decision by decision. And those decisions form the new signal. The body doesn't care if you feel ready. It cares if you act ready. And when you act ready, testosterone rises to match the message. This is the ancient covenant between behavior and biology. When a man disciplines his actions, he reshapes his hormones. When he honors his word, his biology responds. When he wakes early, trains hard, speaks little, and focuses deeply, his endocrine system begins to trust him. It rewards the man who takes the harder path with the internal fire needed to sustain it. This is not vanity. This is not ego. This is sacred biology responding to sacred order. The undisciplined man leaks testosterone through every compromise, through every surrender to distraction, to lust, to comfort. But the disciplined man, the man who governs himself, becomes a magnet for the very chemistry that others try to inject, imitate, or chase. Not because he hacks the system, but because he honors it. He obeys the law of behavior before biology. And through that obedience, he is crowned not by the world, but by the wiring of his own body. Delayed gratification and disciplined action are signs of a well-regulated autonomic nervous system. This is the unseen signature of inner mastery. In a world addicted to the shortcut, to the instant hit of pleasure, the man who can wait, the man who can withhold, the man who can choose principle over impulse, he is not just morally stronger, he is biologically superior, because his nervous system has been trained to obey mission over mood. It is not that he doesn't feel the pull of temptation. It is that his body, down to the cellular level, has been forged to endure tension without collapse. He is not surviving his urges, he is mastering them, and mastery begins in the nervous system. Every time you resist the easy path, you sculpt the architecture of restraint. Every moment you say no to distraction and yes to discipline, your brain reorganizes. The prefrontal cortex, the seat of judgment, of planning, of impulse control, becomes stronger. The connection between it and the emotional brain deepens. You don't just become more focused, you become more human, more ordered, more masculine. Because masculinity is not indulgence, it is governance, and the nervous system is either ruled by dopamine chaos or shaped by restraint and purpose. When you delay gratification, you are not just flexing willpower, you are sending a signal to your biology that you are safe without the drug, without the food, without the praise, without pleasure. That signal rewires the entire autonomic structure. You become less reactive, your heart rate variability increases. Your breath slows, your presence deepens. The world begins to bend toward you not because you chase it, but because you no longer need it. This is the power of a regulated man. He is not driven by the noise outside, but by the order within. Fasting is not just a spiritual act, it is a neurological reset. Abstaining from scrolling, from arguing, from seeking approval. These are not small things. These are acts of war against a culture of weakness, and every time you win, you rewire. Every time you stay on mission when comfort tempts you to veer, you are not just making a choice, you are building a system that resists chaos, a system that honors direction, a system that is not tossed by every wave but anchored like stone. The undisciplined man is not unlucky, he is untrained. His nervous system has been conditioned to chase what is easy, and that chase becomes his chain. But the man who delays, the man who restrains, the man who waits not out of fear but out of strategy, he becomes untouchable. Not because he never falls, but because even his falls serve his structure. This is not theory, this is biology. This is neuroplasticity obeying choice. This is the nervous system kneeling to vision, and this is where masculinity is built not in public, but in private obedience to the hard, holy path. Masculinity is reinforced through neuroplasticity. Consistent habits literally rewire the brain for strength and resilience. The brain is not fixed. It is clay in the hands of your decisions, shaped by repetition, carved by discipline, hardened through struggle. Every action, every choice, every habit sends a message to your nervous system. This is who I am becoming, and the brain, loyal to its instructions, obeys. It builds circuits around repetition. It rewards what you pursue. It punishes what you neglect. This is not metaphor. This is divine engineering. The man who disciplines his thoughts, his breath, his focus, is not just changing behavior. He is rewriting the very network of who he is. Strength is not a trait, it is a neural signature. Resilience is not a personality, it is the product of pathways fired again and again in the face of pressure. Masculinity is not about dominance. It is about durability, stability, presence, and presence is a biological reality. The man who returns to his habits daily even when they are hard, even when no one is watching, is reinforcing identity at the deepest level. He is training his prefrontal cortex to lead, not follow. He is shrinking the amygdala's grip on fear. He is turning stress into signal, not threat. This is the holy work of becoming. Not the loud declarations, not the outer noise, but the silent, sacred shaping of the mind through obedience to structure. Neuroplasticity does not care about emotion. It cares about what you do again and again. It does not reward potential. It rewards consistency. The gym, the cold, the fast, the breath, the prayer, the silence, each one is a brick in the cathedral of masculinity being built inside the brain. When you choose discipline, you're not just becoming more focused, you are thickening the neural highways that carry strength into every other area of life. You are making it easier to return to purpose and harder to drift into chaos. The man who trains daily is not just improving skill, he is becoming the man whose brain defaults to order. And that default is his freedom, because when the pressure comes, and it always comes, he doesn't need to search for strength. It's already wired into him, not through luck, but through labor. There are no shortcuts here, no hacks. No bypasses, only the long, sacred path of repetition under pressure. The man who walks that path becomes unshakable, not because he's fearless, but because fear no longer controls the architecture of his brain. He has bent the system to serve the mission. He has used pain to lay down new patterns. He has burned comfort to light the fire of transformation. And the brain responds. It strengthens what he honors. It deletes what he neglects. Masculinity, then, is not taught. It is trained. Not performed, it is installed, neuron by neuron, choice by choice, under the weight of daily obedience. Real power comes from balancing sympathetic drive fight with parasympathetic control calm focus. This is the sacred tension within the nervous system, not one side overpowering the other, but both operating in perfect harmony. The sympathetic system fuels action. It's the surge, the fire, the readiness to engage, to push, to dominate when required. But fire without control is destruction. A man living only in sympathetic overdrive burns out, lashes out, becomes reactive, unstable, weak in disguise. True masculinity is not in the surge alone. It is in the man who can access aggression without being ruled by it. The man who can stare into the eyes of conflict and remain unmoved, ready but not reckless. The parasympathetic system is the anchor. It slows the heart, steadies the breath, restores the body, sharpens the mind, but calm without fire is passivity. Peace without courage is a mask for fear. The man must be both the sword and the shield, the storm and the silence. Masculinity is the mastery of this balance, the ability to rise with force and descend with control. The man who trains both systems, who breathes into pressure, who holds tension without collapse, becomes a fortress. His nervous system is not a battlefield of extremes. It is a well-governed kingdom. This balance can only be forged through discomfort. It is earned in the repetition of breathwork under stress, in the choice to stay present when escape would be easy, in the moments of silence when the world demands reaction. It is seen in the man who chooses to speak with precision rather than volume, who moves with calm under fire, who responds instead of reacts. His nervous system has been trained like a warrior monk ready to strike, but always anchored. He has mastered not just what to do, but when to do it and how to return to stillness after the fire. This is the holy nervous system, the divine duality, the wiring that does not betray him when life intensifies. While others spiral, he centers. While others fight to be seen, he sees clearly. Not because he has no fear, but because fear is no longer his master. It rises and he rides it. It flares and he breathes. His biology becomes the tool, not the trap, and from that state true power flows. Not loud, not erratic, but deep, focused, unstoppable. This is what the world is starving for. Not louder men, not angrier men, not softer men, but trained men. Men who have shaped their nervous systems into weapons of service. Men whose biology is not reactive, but responsive. Men who carry the fire of the sympathetic and the peace of the parasympathetic, like two wings of the same being. This is not balance by chance. It is balance by design, by discipline, by divine wiring aligned with holy purpose.